For people who know me a little bit or too much, they know how passionate I am about what I do with my life. Because, of course, 60% to 70% of your time you spend working. But today, I don't want to make it too much about work. I want to make it more about, in this journey in this roller coaster of a journey, what have I learned in my life until now? I think the MC, they just told you guys everything about what I've done. I started from a company in Pakistan, and 3 years from then, today I'm here in Nairobi and doing global expansion for another company. For me, I didn't want to make it about success. I wanted to make it more about self-fulfillment. Because man, success, we have no idea. Like for us, for everyone, success is a separate story. Even self-fulfillment is a separate story. But what is self-fulfillment for me, and what have I learned in this rocket ship of a journey after graduating college in only 2016? There's a framework, and I'm glad that I got this opportunity to come here and share what I've learned in my life until now. It kind of helped me step back, go super macro, and think of what has worked for me and what hasn't, right? So I put it down into 4 broader level categories and said, hey, until today, this is what fulfillment has been for me. I want to start with the opportunity. So a lot of the times, we think that you need to be super smart. We think that you need to be emotionally intelligent. But with time, what I've realized in life is it's about that opportunity window, and it's actually about being at the right place at the right time. Now, a lot of us will come in and argue, that means that how do you decide whether you're at the right place at the right time? It's just you become lucky, right? So even for me in this space, lucky is a formula. How do you become lucky? Imagine the probability of a door opening of an opportunity is 10%. Now, some people knock that door 10 times, so only one time it will open. But some people knock that door 100 times. They're persistent towards knocking. So let's say the probability is still the same, but now the door opens 10 times. And this is what people think that, oh, X, Y, Z became lucky. It's not actually lucky. There's a lot of math to it. So that's one. I want to step back, go super macro again, and think of how did it all start for me? I don't know if you guys know, there's a small town called Hyderabad. It's in Pakistan. It's not like a small town in the US or in Europe. It's like a small town where the reach, the opportunity, and everything is super limited, right? And I was there until I was 17 years of age. Man, the farthest I have been was 200 kilometers, which was the biggest city, which was Karachi. And this was like until 17 years of age. I mean, I had never been on a plane. I had never been out of the country. And I'm sure a lot of people have been through the same thing. But like for me, it was very different because I had no idea what to expect. And my mind was so into one zone that I could not see broader than that. In between all of those things, what happened was there was this small program, an exchange program that came in that you get a chance to go to the US for a year, and it was all paid and all of that. And I just found out that opportunity by talking to someone. And what I did was I just went in and applied. It wasn't that hard to get in. 6 months down the lane, I got a chance to go to the US. And I still remember the day I landed in Washington, Dulles at the airport. And this was the first time I actually saw those big buildings. I know it's funny. But like the first time when you see it, and then you're like, oh, okay. What really happened and what really changed? The only thing that changed was the horizon. First I was playing here, and now I'm looking at all of these things happening all around me. All of a sudden, the world became huge. What did I learn from this? I learned from it that the opportunity was actually available for a lot of people. You just needed to go out there and grab it and seize it, which this guy, Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, very nicely says that it's not about actually the real opportunity is about the people who grab it and who go towards it and actually take it. That's one side of the story. So if there was the opportunity, there was that moment of being at the right place at the right time. That was it for me. After that, let's talk a little about what has happened in the history. So there's this one guy, his name is Michael Jordan, right? So I don't know if anybody, I'm sure a lot of people know this, the story of Michael Jordan. It actually went like he was kicked out of his high school basketball team for the reason that he was not tall enough, right? Now imagine, today we all know Michael Jordan as one of the prodigy and one of the legends in the basketball, but at that time he was kicked out. He went back home and he cried in front of his mom, and his mom came to him and actually told him, man, how about you use this opportunity of failure to go back and prove it to your coach that you can do it, that you are better than that. And as per him, he says that was the point where he took that opportunity and he used it as a stepping stone towards success. And then here he also realized that his average of shooting, if some of you know basketball, his average of shooting was 50%. So what he did was he actually became faster. So where people would take one shot, he would take two shots, because one out of the two would actually make it, which actually enabled him to become a legend in history. That's one side of the story. So I would say that's one opportunity. Let's say you have the opportunity. What do you do then? You don't settle. That's number two. Now I have the opportunity, let's say. Now, do I want to strive for the excellence, or do I want to just settle at some point and say, hey, this is enough, this is it? You always leave that one room and that small space that kind of makes you want to go fight for the impossible. If people started settling, man, nobody would think of going to Mars. Nobody would think of moving from Chicago to New York in an hour, Elon Musk, right? So nobody would think of shooting for the moon and the beyond, right? So you don't really settle. And I don't know, like, and some of you who know, my friends are here, who know I like mountains, right? And back home where I'm from in Pakistan, few of the biggest mountains are there of the world. So the huge range of Karakoram, Himalayas, and all of that is there, right? So I started trekking, and then I started climbing. And I climbed a 6,100 meter peak, a couple of them actually, back home. And that experience kind of taught me a few things about never settling. I don't know if you guys know, this is K2. K2 is the second highest peak in the world, and that's me looking at K2. So anyway, what you do is, so during this journey, I've never climbed K2. I can't even think of it. It's super hard, but I just thought this was a nice picture to put it up here. So what I learned in this journey of mountaineering and all of these things was that, man, there comes a point where you want to give up, where you're done, and this is it. And you're like, man, I've loved the journey and I've loved all of it, but this is it for me. Now I don't want to make it any further. And I remember that one fine night we had to wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and it was like minus 30, and I mean, I couldn't even get out of my tent. And at that point, I've thought that, hey, is this the time to settle? I've done this. I've come to 5,500 meters. It's just 600 meters more, and I've done it. This is it for me. But in that moment, you realize that what keeps you actually going is this drive that, hey, what about the end point? How does it look from there? Like, if I just take a step right now for the next 1 hour, maybe what I see is going to be the most beautiful thing in the world, and I forget all of the other parts of my journey. And I actually stood up and I went there, and when I reached, it was like you could see China on one side from top of a mountain, and you could see Pakistan on the other side. It was the most beautiful feeling and the sight that I've seen in my life. right? So this lesson actually this experience actually gave me that, hey man, just don't really settle. I mean, you're always going to get to those points where you might have to, but you don't really need to. Like, go for it. Take that step. Now, I want to bring in the example of Mr. Mandela, how for 27 years he was in prison. He was given multiple opportunities, multiple offers to get out, but settle on the terms of someone else. And he would live a very happy and very prosperous life. But this guy didn't settle for his values. He didn't settle for what he believed in. And today we all remember this guy as the first black president in the history of this world. Again, cliched, but this is a very, very, very good example of how the example of not settling. Imagine getting kicked out of your own company and then going out and then building another company, which eventually gets bought by your ex-company, and then you go back to Apple, like Steve Jobs, as the CEO. Man, if I went through this, I would think 20 times of being kicked out of my own company and then thinking, oh, okay, I've been through this once. Do I want to go through all of this again? But this guy didn't really settle, and today we all know him as a prodigy. And we all, I'm sure half of us have his product still in your hand. So let's say two of them is opportunity. Oh, I saw the opportunity and I don't want to settle. Man, in this whole process of self-fulfillment, there's a lot of uncertainty. Don't let anybody tell you that, hey, it's all nice, it's all garden and flowers. It's not. You need to embrace that uncertainty. You need to step up and say, hey, okay, I'm in this journey, but I need to be able to, and I need to stay always ready for the uncertain events, and I need to learn how to embrace the failure. This kind of brings me to a life example, which is this. There is a company called SWVL. Okay, also I graduated in 2016, and since 2019, this is my second company that I worked for. I was doing well in Pakistan. I was there. I was looking after the supply side of the whole country, and this was a ride-hailing company, Careem. And then this friend of mine, who also used to work with the ex-company that I used to work at, but he was always in Dubai. Dubai was our base camp. And when we were launching one of the small cities in Pakistan, he was in the global market launch team. He came to Pakistan, and that city was my city, Hyderabad, that we were launching as a ride-hailing for that city. I still remember he came in, this guy, and we lived at my house for 7 days. We launched the city, and he went back, and I never met him again. But this guy, there was a bond. I started speaking with him, and I saw the passion and the drive in this guy, and it was just a nice conversation, then he goes back. This guy was an Egyptian. He was also 26, 27, who was the founder of this company, SWVL. 1 year down the lane, we never met in the middle of all of those things. He gives me a call. He says, man, hey, this is what we are doing. I think you should come and be part of the company. At that time, the company wasn't that big. Today, the company is already crossing a couple of $100 million in valuation. But at that time, the company wasn't that big. What did I do? A, I looked at the opportunity. B, I said, hey, I don't want to settle. C, was I moved on one phone call, but I knew that there's a lot of uncertainty in the whole process, which I need to get up with, because I have no idea how Egypt looks like, because this is an Egyptian company. I went to Egypt, and today, if you ask me, 8 months down the lane, there is no other way I would have had it. Today, I feel like a different person. Today, I feel like coming to Nairobi, who would have thought that, oh, hey, I'm going to join Egypt, and then in the next 2 months, we'll plan to launch into Nairobi, and today we have launched into Nairobi, and we are already doing a few thousand bookings a day, which is an amazing feat for all of us, right? This was the uncertain part that I took, but not all the time it works out, right? You need to be ready. What if none of those things worked out? Setting it back to some examples from history. Mr. Branson, we all know he failed 10 to 12 times. He never really settled. He always embraced that failure and he kicked back in, and today we all know where this guy is, right? Cool. 3 things we understand 100% out of the 4. Let's say I saw the opportunity and I don't want to settle and I embrace the uncertainty, but you have no idea whether that's the right path to go. What is that? So there's this formula which I thought of last year, because when I was going through some problems in my life, and I felt, what is the issue here? And I realized there was a balance between knowns and the unknowns was missing. If you're on this trajectory like this, you always need to make sure that things that matter the most are in check, which is actually your community, which is actually your family. Your family, whatever happens in the world, you don't use it as an opportunistic moment and say, hey, I will only go back because I need them for me to succeed. What you need to realize is your family is something, whatever you are, is always going to be, there is always going to be that one constant. That's my family. I thought I wanted to put it up here. But yeah, all of this has helped me get there where I am right now. And whenever I think of family, I cannot think of a better example than this one, how the 2 of them work super close with each other and were always there to take both of them like from the worst possible scenarios. Well, okay, now we know, at least from my perspective, there's a recipe for self-fulfillment. Okay, sure, opportunity, never settling, community, and all of that. But again, what if 10 years down the lane, these beautiful people invite me back again, and I come here and I say, hey, remember the last time what I said? None of those things really matter. Because then maybe I learned 10 different things in the 10 years, and I'll tell you more about what I learned at that time. But I guess that will remain uncertain, and like I said, we need to embrace it. Thank you.